1-800-Flowers.com knows that a gift is never just a gift. A gift is an expression of everything you feel and helps build more meaningful relationships. 1-800-Flowers takes the pressure off by helping you navigate life's important moments by making it simple to find the perfect gift. From flowers and cookies to cake and chocolate, 1-800-Flowers helps guide you in finding the right gift to say how you feel. To learn more, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
On November 7th, Thundercat, Karasoft, and NVIDIA teamed up to host a discussion with leading government panelists to speak on best practices and challenges agencies are facing with AI. Learn how we can plan to navigate complex policy landscapes, assess agency needs, and contribute to shaping the future of AI applications in the government. You can now tune into the conversation on the Feds at the Edge podcast, streaming on all major platforms. Visit thundercattech.com/events for more info. That's thundercattech.com/events.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Welcome to The Trader, a Spotify Top 10 Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer working in unscripted TV development, and I am a 100% faithful fan of the TV phenomenon The Traitors. The Trader features deep dives into every episode of English-speaking versions of the show, as well as interviews with contestants. And this season of the podcast is dedicated to The Traitors Canada Season 2. Today we're looking at episode 5, and oddly, this is only the second time this season that my regular co-host and I are together. Welcome back, David Bloomberg.
Yeah, I really hadn't thought of it that way, but hopefully we'll be good to go for the rest of the season. Both of us on here. I guess we'll see. As long as we don't shake anybody's hand and promise to trust them, we should be here. But for anyone who somehow is tuning into this podcast and doesn't know who I am by now, I am indeed David Bloomberg. I have been covering reality TV in print, online, podcasts, short videos, you name it, for over 24 years. And so, The Traitors definitely falls into that. One of, as we can see by the many different variants of it that have popped up in different countries, it's just taking the world by storm.
Yes. And since we were together on the podcast for episode 3, the main thing that's happened is that Kirkland was banished, and I believe this was your prediction, wasn't it?
It was. That kind of seemed obvious to me, but then again, the person who was going to be murdered seemed obvious to both of us, and they pulled a fast one on that. So I guess it's easier to trick us with the editing for The Traitors than it is to trick us for the overall editing for, the entire storyline of banishment.
Yeah. Now, I'm looking forward to getting into episode 5 because there are various moments in this episode where I really thought, I'm morphing into David. I know what David thinks at this point. So I really want to talk about them with you. Before we get there, though, of course, it's time to set up our game, The Trader Traitor. So, our mission from here on in is to tell a lie to one another. The lie has to be a fabrication or a made-up fact, big or small, about the traitors, ourselves, or anything else. For example, I could lie and say that I actually just didn't bother doing the podcast last week, and there is no episode 4. I've just skipped straight to episode 5. However, I couldn't lie by saying I think episode 5 was a boring, terrible episode, when my true feelings are that it was a great episode full of absolute chaos. That would be a fake opinion, so we're looking for fake facts, not fake thoughts and feelings. David, it's been a couple of weeks. Ready to betray me again?
I am.
You did a pretty good job of it last time. I'm sure last time we played, I failed spectacularly. Here we go. Our game begins now. So we can go ahead and start talking about episode 5, season 2, Traitors Canada. We begin with a recap of the previous episode, which I did do a podcast on. That was a lie. And we're reminded that Enoch was murdered. Strangely, as you've just said, we thought it was going to be Pac-Man, and it wasn't. There is faithful on faithful suspicion all round. Cedric and Nick both won shields in their mission, and Trana was on her own mission to get Kirkland for every second of the episode that she was on TV. Until he was banished, when she then suddenly seemed to change her mind about him being a traitor after all, even though she voted for him. The traitors didn't receive a single vote, and that night are commanded to murder in plain sight with a deadly handshake, which proves pretty difficult. The episode ended with Michael John finally cornering Dylan in a corridor and offering him a handshake and asking if he trusts him. So the episode sort of just repeats that ending, really. It starts the previous night, it's a cliffhanger, on we go, and then suddenly we're at breakfast. So we don't know. They've done this sort of thing before. Like, we're going to have to wait and see who comes in the door last. Yeah. Cedric arrives in the first group at breakfast. He is immediately rambling on. I can't even remember what he's rambling on about now. I've just written, please stop. He wants people to not vote him off just for being a distraction. And I thought, well, then stop being a distraction. Be quiet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, exactly. You know, he wants them to vote him off because they think he's a traitor instead, but they don't think he's a traitor. He doesn't seem to understand how this game works. And this is something I feel like we see all episode long. These people have just absolutely sunk their entire personalities into the concept of the game and have forgotten that they're playing a game. Yeah. You know, they're all like, we must get the traitor. Oh, we're the faithfuls and we must do this. And even if I get, you know, murdered tonight, I must do this and I must say that, and all this over melodrama. And it's like, no, you're playing a damn game. Stop it.
Yeah. There are various examples of this throughout, this sort of over the top belief in their actual role as a faithful, as if it's a real thing. Yeah. Many times in my notes I've written things like, it's just a game, which is funny for me to say because I do an entire podcast and spend many hours of my life talking about this game. But it is just a game. So right. More players arrive at breakfast and they are speculating about who'll be murdered. Kira seems to be doing a pretty good job of acting like a faithful. Mm-hmm. She's you know, telling them that maybe we need to start looking at who's been too quiet and stuff like that, which seems to go down well.
Except she's pointing the finger essentially at her own brother by saying that.
Oh, well, I never thought of it that way, actually. Yes. You're right. I think I've made a note later about how quiet I find Nick, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Jasmine arrives and does a speech. She says, I know Lauren is a traitor. I don't care if I get murdered tonight. Really? You don't care if you get murdered tonight? Yeah. Okay. It's like you're saying, she's sort of willing to sacrifice herself for the good of the faithful. Like, well, you're not going to benefit from that. So
right.
Why do you care about everyone else?
Yeah, and the best part is she's been investigating, and this is her conclusion. Because, you know, we know from experience that she is a great investigator and would never jump to incorrect conclusions. And then Cedric even says something's off with Jasmine. Now, he means in the game. I think he's right in other ways.
Yeah. Jasmine is, she's just a lot. She's a lot to take. And
then, Netta, you know, sums it up. How can you be so loud and so wrong at the same time?
Cedric also says he thinks it's weird that Jasmine is acting like Lauren is definitely going to arrive when they don't know who's murdered yet. So, and it is probably a bit foolish of her to say this. I guess it's one thing that Cedric says that I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess that's fair enough.
It is, but I mean, there's what, 15 people left, so that's a 1 in 14 chance.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
so
there's less than that because there's fewer people because some have come in already. But she even says at one point, you can make fun of me all you want if it turns out Lauren doesn't show up or
yeah,
something like that. So I think that's one of the many times they're picking on something really, really minor.
yeah. There's a funny edit here where we get this, 3-second moment of Jasmine saying, "I know Kira is a faithful 100%."
Yes.
And I thought, why is she singling out Kira? And then I thought, she probably didn't. She probably went through a bunch of people, but
Right.
they want to show us this, so we think, oh, Kira's doing an amazing job as a traitor. That's probably what happened, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yep, Neda is loving all of the nonsense that's going on. Trana and Mike arrive next. I think maybe with some other people. Yet again, Mike says this thing that he says every day now. He goes, "I was expected to be dead," like every morning, every day, every time.
Dude, you're causing arguments. You're causing questioning among the faithful. There is zero chance they're getting rid of you. Just stop it.
Yeah, I don't know why he's like so sure. Well, so sure that he's going to be murdered. Yeah, also told them a couple episodes back, I had a great night's sleep. I slept like a log.
Right.
Which you made a video on Instagram. I don't understand Mike, but he's fun to watch because he's so unusual.
Oh yeah.
Michael Joan arrives, making Lauren and Dylan the only two left. And I think they've done that. I think the producers have done this because of that moment where Lauren accidentally touched Kira's hand the night before.
That's right. Yeah.
And Kira was like, oh, does that count? Does that mean I've murdered her? So I wonder if they noticed that and thought, well, it would be quite fun to then leave Lauren, the other finalist, to walk through. Maybe the viewer will think for a moment, oh, maybe they did accidentally murder her.
I also wonder if Michael hadn't gotten Dylan to shake his hand, would the producers have been like, it was close enough for Lauren. We'll go with that.
Yeah,
we need to get rid of someone at this point. So
yeah. And of course, at this moment, there is a knock knock on the door, and Lauren arrives. The others, some of the others think that she looks tired. I hear someone saying she looks tired. I thought they were implying she'd been up late in the conclave because she was a traitor. I thought that's why they included that line. I'm not sure.
You missed the most important part about breakfast.
Oh, tell me.
Okay. They got hot food.
Oh, yeah.
Because now Melinda had previously talked about breakfast being salty and it wasn't the eggs and bacon. And I thought it was a metaphorical, funny comment. But now we see that there actually are eggs and bacon, and Melinda plops down right in front of them to eat them. Now, of course, what we've seen and heard from players in the past is that breakfasts are almost always cold food.
Yeah.
Because it takes so long to go through breakfast that they'd be cold by the time everyone else gets there.
Yes.
But, Melinda out there making the best use of the hot food that Traitors Canada season 2 has provided, because we heard from players on season 1 that there definitely wasn't any.
Yes, yeah. We've heard that about various seasons. It's it's this like funny running thing amongst ex-contestants that apparently they've also been told not to talk about. Sometimes I interview contestants from different seasons on the podcast. If you're listening, you've probably heard some of those interviews. And often I have to liaise with PR people from like agents, people from the production companies. And, they tell me things that I'm not supposed to ask contestants about. Don't ask them about too much behind the scenes. Don't ask them too much about the casting process. And I can't remember who it was or where it was, but one PR person specifically said, do not ask them about breakfast. So something is going on.
I guess they just heard too much from other people of complaining.
Yes. We get our flashback then to the night before and the handshake. So Dylan does indeed shake Michael John's hand. and agrees with Michael John that he trusts him. So yeah,
After such insistence. I mean, if I was playing a game like this and someone kept saying to me, shake my hand and say that you trust me. I'm shaking your hand and saying I trust you. You must say the words, I trust you. I'd be like, what the hell is going on? Now, I realize Michael is an odd duck anyway. So
yeah.
it may just be people are like, okay, we'll just go along with him. But there have been enough of these murder in plain sight that I would have been highly suspicious of Michael at this moment.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, it's such a risk. If Dylan had noticed that that was strange and or refused to shake his hand, he really could have caused so much damage. He would have told the others surely the next day, "Hey, I had this weird moment with Michael. Presuming someone
Right.
else then gets murdered off, and
Or
Dylan's like,
nobody, if we
well,
believe the grandfather clock, which we don't,
hmm,
because hey, it ticked midnight just as he shook his hand, just like everything, always right there. But yeah, Michael is, as we'll discuss later, is no stranger to acting out in a way that
yes,
makes him look suspicious.
yeah." So he pulls it off nonetheless. We see Dylan receiving his murder letter. He's embarrassed, and then he's obviously told how it happened because he says, "Oh man, this was like the one time I had a conversation with Michael John, and
Right.
that got me murdered." So yeah, they must have said to him, "Oh, here's why and how you've been murdered." Um, we
I
then
wonder
we
if it was a situation where they didn't bother to send him to his room and then pull him out like they
uh
normally would.
yeah.
That they were just like, as they were taking them away, they were like, nope, you come here.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Why bother sending him
Right.
upstairs just to 5 minutes later knock on his door, come back? So yeah, could have been that. We are back then, sort of back to breakfast. Cedric is rambling again. He says they're not
Mhm.
communicating. They have to get a traitor tonight. Lauren is really upset, and I can't quite figure out why, other than that, like you said, she's taking the game way too seriously.
Mhm.
Like, I know it's a lot of money, but it's not even a performance for everybody because there's a clip of her in her confessional and she's crying in that too. And I
Yeah.
she talks more about it later, but I was very confused about why she was so upset at this point. Uh, Cedric asks Jasmine in front of everyone who she thinks really is a traitor, and she sort of dodges the question, but then Cedric and Gail encourage her and say, "No, 5 minutes ago you told us who you thought it was. Tell us now. You singled out Lauren." Lauren gets pissed about this. MJ asks Mike why he's on his list, and Mike says he acts too suspiciously. And he says, "You pretend you don't know parts of the game." I oh well, first of all, Michael John says, like, I have short-term memory problems. And Neda kind of comes in to defend him a bit. I don't know if MJ is always pretending to not know parts of the game. I think he
Well,
actually doesn't understand the game in a lot of ways.
here's the thing. So, um, this is especially interesting to me because it's a trick that I use to figure out who is in the mafia when I play mafia games,
Mm,
because they will often use a trick like this. Or the mafia has other characters too, some of which the guy who runs it for me has made up. So if I name them here, nobody will know what I'm talking about. But other killing roles, they call it in the mafia, other bad guy roles. Um, and so, there'll be someone who says, oh, wait, how many mafia were there again? Oh, wait, are they allowed to recruit? Oh, wait, what does this character do? Do they have a saving role? And now this usually happens with new players who are trying to use their own newness as a cover and being like, well, there's no way I could be mafia because then I would know how many people are in the mafia. But I have just seen it over and over and over again in mafia games. So to the point that if someone says that, I call them out immediately and vote for them, as a mafia player because it's just, and I think that's what Michael is doing here. I think he is truly trying to use that to be what Mike is saying. Oh, what do traders do? Oh, what color are the traders' cloaks? Oh, what's a conclave? Oh, when did that happen? I think Mike has it dead on.
Okay, yeah, I think so. You've also just reminded me because you mentioned Mafia last week on the podcast. I talked about a game, an online game that I played on PlayStation, and it's basically Traitors, it's basically Mafia, but it's a different version, and it's on a UFO and two of your aliens. You play it with people in the room, and you have your phones, and your phone tells you you're a human or you're an alien.
Mm.
It's called Alienation. I didn't know the name of it last week, so that's what it's called.
Not to be
Uh,
confused with the movie Alien
it
and the TV show Alien
is
Nation.
yes, exactly. We spread out into the manor from here.
Oh, wait.
Laura,
Sorry. There's one more thing I have
oh,
because Netta echoes some of the things I've said about people tossing around ridiculous ideas. Just, because she sees them. Well, they're, tossing out these, like, oh, this person must be for this dumb reason, or this person must be for this other dumb reason. But she also says they're the worst faithfuls. And I just have to once again bring up that she must not have seen Australia season. So,
I've also made a note about Australia season 2 a little bit later. So I told you we're thinking alike.
right, right.
So as we leave breakfast and we head out to the manor to have little discussions in groups, Lauren is suspicious of Kevin now because she says that he has a wall up and she thinks he didn't before. And funnily enough, someone else, I think at Roundtable, mentions Kevin. I think it's Trana. He's suddenly on her list. So I wonder if
Yes.
that's becoming a thing maybe for the next episode. We get a clip of Trana in her interview saying we need to find a traitor.
Mm.
It's funny. I just wonder if, again, I follow Trana on Instagram. I wonder if people have given her a hard time about uh, about how she's playing the game. But even within the house, we don't see any fallout from the previous banishment. Like I thought the other players would have been sort of coming after, like you were so sure it was Kirkland, you went after him all day yesterday and he was a faithful. Like, but we don't really see any aftermath from that, which I was
I,
surprised at.
I think it's probably because they're all basically doing the same thing that, everybody's saying they're sure about the next person they're banishing, and then it turns out they're faithful. It's kind of like the old saying, if you point at someone, there's one finger pointing at them and three pointing back at yourself.
Yeah. You're making me think of that Spider-Man meme with the three Spider-Mans all
Yes,
pointing at each other.
yes.
We get a clip of Mike in his confessional, and he is sure that MJ, Laurie, and Jasmine are traitors. He says he never sees any of them together. Uh, two-thirds wrong, one-third right. You could sort of like pick any. It's just sort of a. I don't know if it's the worst reasoning, but you could probably pick lots of combinations of people and say, I've never seen
Right.
those three together.
Yeah.
He's also assuming that there are three traitors, which most of them are, but then funnily enough, we'll get to it, but Trana later
Right.
decides that there are four, which
Yeah.
I thought somebody might say something about, but hey. We also see Kira then talking to Neda on her own, and Kira's encouraging Neda to speak up a bit more because she's very quiet and soon that will start to get suspicious. And I get, yeah, like you said, I wonder if she's giving her own brother the same advice.
Right. Yeah.
But by the sounds of it, they really aren't getting any time alone together.
Mhm.
They're probably, I'm assuming they're really paranoid about people figuring out their connection. They just don't want
Right.
to be together.
Right.
We then get this sort of unexpected segment, I guess. Karine arrives earlier than usual. They all seem quite surprised to see her. She's in the garden, and she announces in a roundabout way that she says Dylan. They know that Dylan was murdered, but she sort of says he was murdered in a unique way and doesn't say much more about it. And tells them that for the mission, one group of them have been chosen: Belinda, Lauren, Aaron, Cedric, Nick, Jasmine, and Mike, and they will all meet Karina as a group. The rest she'll see later. The players then start to figure out maybe the mission is, well, I'm saying figure out, actually, it's not really. They think the mission is going to have some connection to Dylan's murder. It isn't really at all. Or they at least know that there was something significant or unusual about the way he was murdered, but we don't get any further than that.
I mean, if she gave any more information, there were people in the room when Michael said to Dylan,
Mm.
"Hey, let's go talk.
Yeah.
So I feel like if she had said he was murdered in plain sight or something like that, they would have all been like, immediate eyes on Michael.
Yeah. Like in, other seasons, it was a drink they had to offer somebody and
Right.
chat. So as soon as the players know that, it becomes a little bit easier to narrow things down. And at least one case, it really did help them figure out
Right.
who passed the murder victim the cup. So I guess they're avoiding that here, maybe. We are in the cars for the people who are going off to the mission. Jasmine's in a car shouting at inordinate volume. That's what I've written. She's having a go at Mike. And because she thinks he's a traitor, he suggests maybe we're both wrong, and he's right. We see Melinda with Lauren and Aaron, and Melinda's wondering why Dylan was murdered. Lauren thinks that he was she thinks he was too inquisitive or too clever. I don't know if that was the reason. I think it's more likely that he was just a nice guy that didn't have much suspicion on him. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Melinda suggests that Neda could be he doesn't suggest that she could be a traitor, but he sort of says something like, "Oh, have we thought about Neda yet?" or something. And Lauren says, "I don't get mastermind vibes from her." And that's the end of it. Aaron says he feels that way about Kira and that he couldn't believe, that she could possibly be a traitor. So, and again, they probably talked about lots of other people and said, but they've picked out these little moments to show us the traitors are doing a pretty good job. At least the two women are anyway. We arrive at the mission then. It all takes place in a church. We see lots of mission in churches in the traitors. Karine tells them they've been chosen by the traitors as representatives of the 7 deadly sins. I'm starting to wonder if this is true, because they don't show us the traitors picking these people, and I wonder why. Like, they did it with the Trojan horse mission, and we were told, oh, the traitors... Well, actually, in that case, I do believe it. They said the traitors chose the answers to these questions, but we heard Neda confirming that.
Yeah.
In this case,
I think they probably did. I think the traitors probably did. But it just, why bother to show it? I don't know that anything's gained by showing it.
And I guess if they show us, then it ruins the mission a little bit, because we don't get to guess whether they're right or not. So,
right. And since none of them were in the group, they couldn't say, "Oh, we tried to help them out," or "Oh, we tried to lead them astray," or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. And the traitors, I'm assuming they could have picked themselves, but chose not to. Yeah, in fact, they do, because they talk about this in a little while.
Right.
Yeah. So forget everything I just said, basically. They have to decide. The players have to decide who belongs to what label, what deadly sin, and they then should lie in the corresponding coffin. Lauren believes that there are traitors in their midst. She thinks that Cedric and Melinda are traitors. There's this really bizarre series of shots of Karine getting into her Nissan and zooming off. There's clearly some sponsorship deal, because they do it again later.
I mean, after watching this episode, I wanted to hop in my Nissan and go get some Jacob's Creek wine, so
yeah.
I don't know why. It was just a weird feeling I had after all this.
Yeah. My first car was a Nissan. It was a Nissan Micra, and it did not go as fast as this. So Nissans look much cooler now. So we for the next 10 or 15 minutes, we alternate back and forth between the players in the house and players in church. So we jump back to the players in the house. They get this letter from Karine explaining the sinner's mission, and that these remaining players weren't chosen as sinners, and therefore they are saints. So they're going to be treated. And they all figure out, it's probably not really a treat. There's something else going on. Back to the church, the players enter to see the coffins all laid out. The first clue they spot is that they have to look under the benches. They're crawling around. Cedric is enjoying crawling around. He seems to be having a great time. There is another clue on the wall. I'm going to read it out, but it's not the most important thing in the world. It says, among Melinda, Mike, and Nick, one of them is Pride. It's not me, says Melinda. It's Mike, says Nick. Nick lies, says Mike. Only one tells the truth. It's like a logic problem. It's a sort of deduction game. A pen and paper would be handy in this game, but I don't think they have anything like that.
Yeah, I felt like I was taking the GRE again. I don't know if you have a GRE. Do you know what the SAT is or the ACT?
Yes, I know that
Okay.
from movies and TV
Okay.
shows.
Okay. Well, the GRE is the graduate examination. You take it at the end of college to go into graduate school.
Okay.
And it had a logic section in it where it's like, Mary sits next to Mike. Mike
Hmm.
is the, husband of Jasmine. And, then you just have to figure out which, who's sitting where and all this other stuff.
Yeah, we get those games and like puzzle books. I used to really
Yeah.
enjoy them, but the more complicated they got, the more I just gave up on them. I like the really simple ones. We go back to the house. The players are speculating about where the traitors have put themselves, like which group they've put themselves in. Laurie thinks they've split themselves up, and we get a clip of Kira saying, "Oh, we didn't think of that," which
Yeah.
really made me laugh because if they had split themselves up, I guess they would have had like eyes on
Right.
everybody, and they would have been privy to all the different conversations and hear who's talking about what.
I mean, honestly, I think they were better off doing it this way. Because then if they're not in the position of that they were in the Trojan horse mission, where they felt like, well, we want to give the right answer, but we don't want to give too right an answer. And, so this allows them to not accidentally screw up.
Yeah, I actually think it was fine as well. It also reminds me of like the death row challenges where actually at this point it's easy for the traitors just to not put themselves forward for it and
Right.
just allow everybody else to be suspicious of themselves and just allow the faithfuls to go at it. Back in the church, there are some candles on the altar with different words on each one. The first set they rearranged to say Lauren is not in the middle coffin, which is envy. There's more candles with another clue, and both ends are Aaron and Nick. This is the point where I genuinely forgot who Nick was. It took me, I've got
too.
like a tab
Yeah.
open with all the players to remind myself, because there's still a couple of names that I forget. I scrolled down and then I thought, oh, of course, that's who Nick is. But truly, for a moment, I was like, who's Nick? And at this point in the season, I made a note that I feel like I've barely seen Nick. I barely have seen Aaron, and I don't know
Yes.
anything about Pac-Man. Those are the three players that just seem invisible so far.
When they said Nick, I was envisioning Aaron
Yeah.
because, just a generic guy,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. And then, as I was watching, oh, wait, no, that's not Nick. That's Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Aaron is not one of the celebrity players. And all I know is Pac-Man is like a gamer, a content creator.
Right.
Nick is Kira's brother and can backflip, and that's about it. And has red hair, red dyed
And
hair.
is it a YouTube?
Oh, he's a YouTuber.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they decide that Nick is gluttony and that Aaron is lust. I think might have those wrong. I actually couldn't keep track of who was what sin and who doesn't matter anyway. So
I didn't really try. I was just like, okay, come on, let's just,
back at the house, Karine arrives in her speedy Nissan. She wants to speak to each player alone, and she explains what their part in this mission is, which I said this last week. I found a little confusing. It kind of took me until later on in the episode to truly figure out what was going on. She tells them that they can sacrifice some amount of the 10K prize from today's mission to potentially get a shield without anyone knowing about it. What I didn't realize then, but realize now is they were bidding. They were like bidding, here's how much I'm willing to, and then whoever bid the highest would get it. I didn't understand that at first. Laurie immediately says, there's no way, I'm not going to do it, as does Neda. And I sort of thought, well, yeah, that's obvious. Why would you? You're a traitor, you don't need to. Kevin says no and says, I'm sticking to an honest game. And I have written, why?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll just jump in here because especially after she said nobody would find out, every single faithful should have immediately bid $10,000. Because we've talked about this before. You have to be in the game to win the money.
Yeah.
And if you're murdered, you're not in the game anymore. So it doesn't matter how much money there is in the pot. Second, it's unlikely the other group is actually going to get all $10,000. So you're not really bidding 10,000 because it's what she said was up to 10,000 from the pot they get. So like they ended up getting 7,500. So the final bid would have only been 7,500. They're not going to dip into the pot for more.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of the faithful were like, no, we won't sacrifice any money for, it goes against my character and this and that. No, there is no character. It is a game. Stop it with that.
Yeah.
We just literally in the US, well, and in Canada, saw a woman lose $750,000 on Big Brother because she wanted to stick to loyalty and character and morals. Yeah, you were an idiot.
Yeah. Funnily enough, so Big Brother UK is on right now. We've talked a little bit about this before on the podcast. Big Brother UK is very different to Big Brother US in that it's really not a strategy game at all. It's right. Straight up reality with some voting. However, in this current season, they have introduced Head of House, which I know is a Big Brother US thing. And I think it probably doesn't really work the exact same way, but like Big Brother in the UK is still a show that the public votes on. The players in the house nominate people to go up for eviction, but it's the public. You use your phone and you vote for who you want to get rid of, and then they do a live show on like a Friday night. They evict the person with the most votes. However, they've introduced Head of House, so now each week one player does have advantage. They're like immune from. I think they're immune from being voted for, and they get to mess around with the nominations. They can like save one person, replace someone else of their choice, killer nominations, stuff like that. So I thought that was just, I'm digressing a little bit, but it's just interesting that I think they've kind of borrowed that from Big Brother US, and they're maybe trying to introduce a little bit more gameplay and strategy because, and I would say this, of course, but maybe because the Traitors is so huge here and they've seen, hey, people are, and we had a show called Fortune Hotel, which was just on, did pretty well. It's going to get a second season. So I wonder if Big Brother UK are like, oh, maybe we should introduce a bit more strategy. Anyway, there was something else I was going to say about the actual show we're discussing right now, and I've forgotten what it was. Maybe it will come back to me. Oh, it was about people. Oh, it was about people saying they're playing an honest game and they're not going to bid any money to get a shield. My counter argument, I guess, to what you suggested is maybe I can understand if a player thinks they're a terrible actor and they're like, I'm never going to be able to hide it. Like, I'm going to feel so guilty. It's going to be written all over my face. I think people will get, maybe that's a thing. They just think I'm a bad liar. I'm going to feel so under pressure when it comes up tonight. I just don't want to put myself in that situation. So I can see that as well. But
I guess, yeah.
But I think if there's a chance to get a shield, and you think you can at least just say nothing and be silent and get away with it, then try it. Just try it.
Yeah, but there is someone who is a really good actor and never shows anything, who does get the shield.
Well, yes, we'll get there. Back at the church, the players find they find a note under the bench, which is what they were looking for like 10 minutes ago. It's another riddle. I took a screenshot of it because I was going to read it out. It's like, this week Lauren took 6 15-minute naps. Cedric took 7 to 10-minute naps, and on it goes. And they have to do some maths and figure out who slept the most. I think that's what they're trying to figure out. And then
when I first saw that, I thought they really were taking naps at first. It didn't click with me immediately. I was like, wow, they're taking naps. And then it clicked with me like, oh no, this is just a story problem.
Yeah, I thought, wow, it's like Big Brother. They're watching them constantly and adding up how.
Well, no, in US Big Brother, you're not allowed to take naps. So
that's funny. That's used to be the same in Big Brother UK, but they've definitely changed that because I've noticed this week lots of players napping. But yeah,
I mean they ease up on it as the season goes on, to the point like in that last week where there's only like 4 people, not a whole lot going on. They just stop. But otherwise, throughout the season, you'll frequently hear, no napping or something like, trying to think of the phrase that they use. I think it's just mostly no napping. Or you'll hear someone say, "I'm up. I'm not sleeping." And it's like, okay. You were snoring and you had your sunglasses on, but no, you weren't sleeping.
By the way, I just described the last little part of the challenge as a maths problem. That's math problem. That's me translating for American listeners.
Yes.
Uh,
And I don't know what Canadians say. I don't know if they use math or maths.
or some other word altogether, maybe some French word.
Yeah.
So the players, they have this nap math problem. They reckon Mike has the highest number. He gets in the sloth casket, and his stained glass window lights up. They won 1.5K. I was confused because I'm doing some math in my head. There's 7 sins. If they win 1.5K for each, doesn't that add up to 10.5K rather than just 10? So why did Karine offer the players? Why did she say you can bid up to 10K? Is it just because it sounds like a nice round number? It's weird.
Yeah, I guess she was rounding.
Yeah. It was just strange amounts going on.
Or there was a $500 penalty for getting them all right.
Maybe. Back at the house, we see Trana and Pacman both also refuse to take it to bid any money to win a shield. We go back to the church and we sort of find out the results. Melinda gets in the pride coffin correct. Cedric gets in greed, it's wrong. Jasmine gets in wrath, it's correct. I think Lauren gets in envy. I think Aaron gets in lust. Nick gets in something. I couldn't even remember what the last one was. And it really didn't matter. So the mission's over. Back to the house. Kira also refuses a shield, and then we see MJ. Michael Jordan decides that he wants to bid $5,000 for a shield, and he says it will take suspicion off him. And well, it only takes suspicion off you if you openly admit to everyone that you have the shield, which he then does not do as the episode goes on.
Yes, that's the exact same thing I have written down because. Yeah, it'll be good to have a shield as a distraction, which he says after specifying, like grilling Karine on, will it be a secret? Will you promise me it'll be a secret? And so if it's a secret, then it doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah. Unless he thinks, well, I'll decide I'll tell one or two people when I choose and I'll be in control. But it just doesn't happen. I have another thought about that when it gets to the round table, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes no sense. I truly don't know why he does it.
Yeah.
We are back in the cars briefly because we see the players coming back from the church. Cedric is caught up on why he was placed as envy. He's really annoyed about it. He also doesn't seem to understand how the game worked. He's saying like, why was I picked as that? Who decided that or something? And the other players in the car are like, no, you understand it was just, I think it's Melinda. Melinda and Jasmine are in the front. Yeah, because it comes really important. Yes. And Melinda's saying, well, it doesn't mean you are that. The traitors just picked you as that. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, calm down. And Lauren is suspicious of Cedric because of yesterday's description task. She's still talking about that. And this is the point, I alluded to this earlier. She says this is what made her emotional this morning. She was upset because she couldn't stop thinking about Cedric in yesterday's mission. I just thought, really? That's made you upset? I don't understand. Very strange.
They're losing their minds in there.
Yeah. We are back to the manor then. Everybody is reunited. Cedric comes to Lauren. He says, Jasmine and Melinda are 100% traitors. I will be willing to bet my life on it tonight. Why would you say this? He then played.
He said that part to Michael.
Okay.
I'm willing to bet my life on it.
Okay.
Hope that wasn't your lie.
It wasn't. My note says Cedric comes to Lauren, so maybe I got it wrong.
Well, yeah. Later is when he says it to Michael.
Okay.
Because he says, "Yeah, I bet my life on it." And it's like, well, you're actually talking to a guy who can collect on that bet, at least in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, Jasmine slipped in the car by saying, quote, we picked the answers, as if she was a traitor. The thing is, he didn't say that. I went back. I mean, I know they had a flashback, but I was like, okay, I want to see the whole scene again.
Yeah.
So I rewound and I looked again. She never says that.
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same. It's in fact she doesn't even say anything that sounds like it. It's
No.
Melinda who does all the talking. So Cedric asked the question about, how did the game work? Who picked me as envy? And Melinda in the front seat says they chose the answers. He doesn't say we, doesn't sound like we, doesn't sound like Jasmine is saying we. Cedric is just going mad.
Yes.
And now, last week in episode 4, last week in the podcast, I was being quite kind to Cedric, and I was saying to my co-host Matthew, other Matthew, hey, I don't understand why Cedric's so bad. Like, why is everyone so annoyed by him? Now I get it. Now I get the Cedric is a chaotic distraction thing. It's all making sense.
I mean, he has been since episode 1, so
he
may have
has
taken a few minutes off here and there, but
I think this is the point where I just thought, oh, he's giving utterly false information and claiming it is completely true. So now I'm like, oh yes, that is infuriating because
yes.
that is not helping anyone in the game. While as Cedric is sort of talking about all this to Lauren, I think some of the other players notice that they're together and maybe that's suspicious. Are they traitors? It's a really brief moment.
Mm-hmm.
Be ready no matter what the temperature with Crop Metcalf's $99 heating and cooling system check. Call 1-800-GO-KROP or visit cropmetcalf.com.
Crop Metcalf is the one with 5 stars.
Crop Metcalf, home of the 5-star technician.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, what the are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass? So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Next, Cedric goes off to tell his tale to Aaron. And he also thinks, I've said he, I think I'm still talking about Cedric. Cedric also thinks that Trana is a traitor. Oh yeah, he does. He says it in his interview. But he doesn't want to air this to everybody yet. He's going to just keep this for the time being because he thinks that Tran is a very powerful player. A couple of people say that in this episode, that Tran is very powerful, which maybe we'll talk about at the end. I don't know if it's the most accurate way to describe her. She's very loud. She's very insistent. I don't know if she's powerful.
Sometimes those are power in this game.
So MJ then talks in his interview clip about what he did in the mission, how he bid 5K for a shield. And he also says something about how he's going to blame it on the girls. I think that's what he's saying. Like, I'll just blame it on Neda and Kira. I think he's going a bit mad. I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's also I just don't think he's got a clue what is actually happening in this game.
No.
Trana gathers the others to suggest, or some of the others to suggest that, oh yeah, no, it's the group of people that didn't go off to the mission. They're all gathered together, and she sort of suggests, well, we could play the opposing group by telling them we don't have a shield yet, but maybe we'll get one late. I think what she's trying to do is what they've done in like other seasons of the show. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm giving her way too much credit here. I think she's proposing we could pretend one of us has it, but not tell them who. So therefore we've all got like group immunity. Is that what she was doing?
Yeah, that's what I got out of it too, was she was proposing, someone in this group has it, you traitors, so don't come after anyone in this group.
Yeah. Something I just think she maybe didn't explain it all that well, or maybe it's just some bad editing. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've got Neda holding court with a big group of people. She's sort of explaining to all the folk who are off on the mission. Here's what happened. Here's what Kreen offered us. Shortly after, Michael John then receives his letter telling him he made the best offer and therefore has won a shield. And I thought here, oh, surely he's going to now tell some of the others. Otherwise, what the hell was the point? But no, he doesn't. It continues to make no sense. Various people are chatting around about the manor, about who they're going for tonight. Cedric is on the Jasmine train. Lauren and Aaron are talking about how Cedric is really keen on this. He's pushing this agenda. Nick wants to gauge what his sister's thinking, but he says he hasn't had the chance to have a one-on-one with her. And at this point, I sort of thought it's really interesting, actually, that we haven't seen them together at all. So we've not seen if Nick has like asked her, "You're not a traitor, are you?" and then have to watch her deny it. And it's actually quite annoying. Like I sort of thought, why bother using a brother-sister duo and make one of them a traitor if the viewers then aren't getting any tension from it? Like we're five episodes in.
Yeah, maybe it's just one of those things that, later in the season, since Nick doesn't seem to be in any danger, neither does Kira, that it'll kind of bubble up to the top as things go. I mean, she may be purposely avoiding him, so she doesn't have to lie to him.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it comes to something exciting.
Yes.
Because, and this is kind of a spoiler, if you've not seen UK season 2, maybe skip ahead a little bit. So in UK season 2, we had a mother and son, and it was really fun to watch when, it's like in episode 3 or something, the mother admits in her interview to the audience, Ross is my son, and we're all shocked and oh my goodness. And it was really funny and exciting, and everyone was talking about it on social media, but nothing ever actually really came of it as the game went on. And then when the son Ross, again, spoiler alert, skip ahead, Ross gets banished eventually, and and then tells everybody at round table, by the way, Diane was my mum, and they're all shocked. But that's kind of it. It was sort of like a bit of a wasted opportunity in a way. So this time round, I want to see more from
like
this.
billboard ads or commercials or something.
She's huge. Like Diane is still like a big deal. She's been on MasterChef here in the UK. She's like Celebrity MasterChef. She appears at different red carpet events. She's having a great time. Anyway, it's time for a round table. We get some little interview clips as we always do going into round table. Melinda says it's going to get saucy and delicious. And like you said last week, she described things as salty. I'm noticing a theme. I think Melinda wants a cooking show. Saucy, delicious, salty. I think there's something going on here. Both Laurie and Trana talk about how desperate they are to get a traitor because it's been nothing but faithful banishment so far. And I made a note here to myself, I'm predicting they're going to fail again.
Yes.
And my prediction was right. So
shocking.
They arrive at round table. And Karine reveals, she tells the group that someone did sacrifice a portion of the prize money for a shield and proceeds to dramatically remove gold coins from the table to everyone's horror as they realize that $5,000 is gone, which means the remaining prize now is $37,500. And she simply leaves them with, I'm sure you have lots to discuss. And off they go.
Yeah, I liked her doing that in front of everyone. I think it had a much bigger impact than just saying, she, like you said, dramatically took one after another, to put into her bag.
Yeah.
I think that was better than just saying, oh, you lost $5,000.
Yeah, it was good fun. And I wondered here, maybe Michael John had been saving himself for this moment, for round table. Maybe this was when he thought, I'll tell everyone now that it was me and they'll think I'm a faithful. But maybe I'm giving him too much credit again. Yeah. I wonder if he notices how horrified everybody is, and that's why he suddenly goes, "Oh shit, I'm not admitting anything." So maybe that's what he was going to do, but everyone is just unanimously, horrified at what's happening here. So he's like, "Oh, I really shouldn't have done that." Yeah. So he just doesn't say anything.
I mean, okay, Michael John probably isn't listening to this, so I'll just say I don't think he has that much game awareness to realize that.
No, probably not.
That's why, when I was talking to Sam, when he was one of the guest co-hosts earlier, and he was like, oh, yeah, Michael John reached out to me in email. And I was like, well, damn, now I have to bite my tongue on everything I was going to say about Michael John. And then he reveals at the end that was his lie. And I was like, oh, I had so many other things to say about him.
Well, you can feel free, say what you want.
Yes, yes.
Michael Jones, sorry for listening. It's all in fun. We're kidding. So, um,
Good thing this isn't a video podcast.
yeah. Laurie speaks up at the table. She says, I'm going to get murdered, but I was ready for this. Faithfuls, this is the time we have to grill one another. We've got to get the truth out. She's convinced that a traitor bought the shield. She's right, but I'm not.
Right.
I think she's sort of luckily right. I'm not sure how she got here. She tries to explain herself. She claims that, well, a traitor removed the shield so that no one else could get it, and therefore they could murder whoever they want. And so I sort of think, all right, okay, I see the logic, but, and as Kira goes on to say later in the episode, the numbers are still really high. Like, the traitors still have plenty of people to choose from, so I don't think they would have needed to do this.
And a logical traitor would say, no matter who got it, we're just going to pick someone in the sinners group, because we don't. If one of the traitors, which they did, took it, which this goes to Michael John's logic later as he explains it. He's like, well, I wanted to hold on to it so that no one else could get it. Yeah, but you still can't pick anyone from that group, or else they'll know the traitors got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, we saw this happen. God, what season was this? It was with the landing strip where the traitors went after someone from one group that was in the land, and it just kept coming up through the whole damn season. They were like, no, there must have been a traitor in that group because they knew who had the shield. And logically, otherwise they wouldn't have done that. And I can't even remember which season that was now.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not sure. Unless that's your lie.
But it just doesn't make any sense anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then, people turn on Laurie.
Yes.
And even though it just happened in front of them, they misremember the order things happened in, because they're like, oh, Laurie wanted to talk before Kareen even said anything, which was not true. As Laurie pointed out, no, Kareen said someone took the money and then Laurie jumped in. And then they're like, well, what if it was only $1,000? And
I sort of thought the same as you, and I got really confused. However, I rewatched it, and I think the confusion was because Laurie said, it's because of what she said, I was going to talk about this before I even came in here. And that's what bothered everyone. They were like, why were you preparing to talk about this if you didn't know how much it was? So, but it also confused me this moment as well.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way that Laurie phrased it. She implied that she'd been thinking about this for hours. But yeah, Tran is like, I know it says, hey, maybe you set this all up. You're being really insistent about this. Are you a traitor? And you've planned this whole conversation. Both Neda and Kira at various points here step in to say how disappointed they are. So again, it seems like they're doing quite a good job of acting and pretending, and people are buying it. Cedric jumps in with no segue whatsoever,
right,
to talk about Jasmine. He literally interrupts them and starts going on about Jasmine and how she called out Lauren at breakfast before Lauren was there, and she couldn't have known Lauren wasn't murdered yet. And then she wouldn't admit it. Trana tries to defend Jasmine with the most backhanded compliment of the game. Yes. It made me laugh so much. Trana says, Jasmine speaks her mind and trusts her gut, no matter how crazy and chaotic it is. If you believe this is the mastermind, you're a fucking idiot. And poor Jasmine is just sort of like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. I posted just before we got on to record. I posted that clip to my YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And normally I'll do it in a different order, but that one was so funny. I was like, no, I've got to get that one up there immediately because, yeah, it's just. Yeah, but the other thing is Cedric was going after Jasmine because she was pointing fingers too much and had all these crazy theories. Now, let me repeat that. Cedric is going after someone for having too many crazy theories and pointing fingers all over the place. Dude, look in a mirror.
Yeah. I think Cedric's. he knows that a lot of people suspect him, so his method is just to sort of go mad on the defensive. But like it was either last week or the week before. He was really quiet at the banishment, and he said,
Mhm.
"Like I'm just going to sit back and not say anything." He
Yeah,
should
it was
just
a
keep
couple weeks
doing
ago.
that. So I don't know why he's just gone off the rails again.
Yeah, and then he brings up the alleged "we" comment again.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, and while he's doing, and we know that she didn't say that.
Right.
Melinda steps in to defend Jasmine and is like, "No, I was in the car. That didn't happen."
Mhm.
Trana then has this moment, and I referenced this earlier. She says, I know who the traitors are. There are four traitors. The four traitors are Aaron, Kevin, Cedric, and Laurie. Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong about the amount of traitors, wrong about who they are. But
No,
she's
she can't be
very,
wrong. She's absolutely 100% certain it's Aaron and Cedric, first of
oh,
all,
yes,
which,
yes.
there we go again with this 100% certain stuff. And as usual, it's wrong. It's stop saying you're 100% certain. There is no way you are ever 100% certain in this game. So first of all, everybody stop saying that. Second of all, like you just said, it is really quite a feat to name four names and get none of them right. Mathematically, there was a 38.5% chance of getting one right by randomly picking a name out of a hat. Or randomly
Yeah,
picking four names out of a hat, I should say. She put thought into it, which should make it more likely to get one right, and she still got none of them.
yeah. It made me laugh a lot. And I'm hoping that she's watching this back and laughing at herself. I hope so. Um, Jasmine asks Aaron who he suspects. I don't really know why. It sort of seems quite abrupt. And Aaron says, I don't know. I thought maybe you, but I'm not sure. Maybe Mike. Pac-Man then suddenly pipes in. Uh, and it's the most we've heard from him to say Michael Jordan's been acting the most suspicious I've ever seen him, and that it was probably him who took the money. And it's really weird. He's right. I don't know if anyone pays attention to it. I don't know if anyone's listening to Pac-Man, but it's an
Well, even
interesting
as we'll
moment.
see in the voting, even Pac-Man isn't listening to Pac-Man.
Yeah, yeah. No, his vote does not reflect this at all. But then I guess he's doing the wise thing and just sticking with the
Right,
group and thinks,
right,
there's no point in me voting for Michael John. No one else is gonna.
right.
Um, it is time to vote. They're still arguing, even as they're writing things down, which is great TV for me. And here we go. So Pac-Man votes Jasmine rather than going with MJ. Kira votes for Cedric. Trana votes for Aaron, and as she's doing it, or before she does it, she says, I know my only exit this game is through murder. And I thought that's very bold of you to say that.
Yeah,
You could be banished. It's like she assumes, well, no one thinks I'm a traitor. And I'm
right.
like, well, you're being so loud and outspoken. I wouldn't be surprised if people do start to get suspicious of you. And some of them are suspicious of you, actually. So uh, Mike is next to vote and votes
Well, hold on.
for.
Then she says, sorry. Then she also says, she reiterated the list
Hmm.
and then stupidly voted Aaron because he was first in alphabetical order, even though nobody else mentioned his name. So it is a meaningless vote. Absolutely meaningless. You are throwing out a vote that has nothing to do with anyone.
Yeah, and one of her four was Cedric. So why not
Right.
pick him? Because you know that other people are going to vote for Cedric. So
Exactly.
yeah, it seemed like a wasted vote. Unless she's doing what I suspect she may be doing last week, which is protect herself from a bit of embarrassment. Like if Cedric does go and he's a faithful, then at least she can say, well, oh, at the last minute I changed my mind and I didn't vote for Cedric, so
Yeah.
you can't be mad at me. I don't know if that much thought went
After
into
saying she was 100% certain.
it. Well, yeah. Mike is next to vote and votes for Cedric. And the next like five people vote for Jasmine. Cedric, MJ, Gail, Kevin, Neda, all vote for Jasmine. Nick votes for Cedric. Aaron and Laurie vote for Jasmine. Melinda, Jasmine, Lauren vote for Cedric, which means in the end, Jasmine is banished with 8 votes. Cedric was not far behind with 6, and Aaron had his one single vote from Trana. It's time for Jasmine to stand up, give her speech, She says, "What an experience. I came here to do my best as a faithful, but I really hope, faithfuls, you get that traitor and all of you play smarter." And off she walks. It was a funny speech because she doesn't actually say, "I am a faithful." I mean, she just sort of implies
Yeah.
it and they figure it out. But it was
Yeah, I was
an odd
waiting for that
one.
too.
Yeah.
I was waiting for her to say, "I am a faithful," because she said, "I came here to play as a faithful," but she never said she was one.
Yeah, yeah, it was a strange one.
Yeah.
We get a clip from Jasmine in her interview, which I know that you will love because she says, "I played this game with integrity." I think we should ban this word. People need to stop saying it. And it's just integrity gets you nowhere. Like what that's not like admirable gameplay. Like it's not
Right.
helpful. It doesn't mean anything. It's just funny. It's funny that
Yeah.
they're all obsessed with it.
Yeah. I mean, you need to. There's a reason that I have a shirt that I contributed to making that I think I mentioned it before, that says honesty, loyalty, integrity on the front. And then on the back, it says scheme and plot, because you scheme and plot behind their back. You put forward the idea that you're honest and loyal.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing that for game purposes, that's great. But she's already out of the game and she's still saying it.
Yeah. Um, so off she goes. The players look very disappointed, of course. Trana speaks up and says, how any of you could have thought Jasmine was a traitor is absurd," which is very funny because she thinks four faithful are traitors.
Mm-hmm.
She's so chaotic in her assumptions. It really makes me laugh. Pac-Man has this moment for once. We get a little interview clip with Pac-Man saying, he says, "I feel like one of the worst players in Traitors history."
Mm.
And I thought, well, not really. Yeah, you're still here. And
Yeah.
the Traitors don't see you as a threat. Well, Michael MJ might now because he mentioned his name, but you're not doing that badly. You're still in the game, so could be worse. Laurie is very embarrassed about what they've just done. Mike says, "I was convinced Jasmine was a traitor. I guess she was running from being accused." Yes. Yes, that's what she was doing. Kevin says he's now very suspicious of Trana because she's accused him. And again, he says this thing, "I've seen how powerful she is at the table." And I thought, well, she's not that powerful because she couldn't save Jasmine tonight. And
Right.
she's wrong all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Are people really listening to Trana? I don't know.
I mean, Trana seems to think so, because the only way she'll leave the game is by
Well,
being murdered. So.
yes, exactly. Uh, we then get a debrief around the house. We've got Gail talking in an interview saying obviously one of those 8 people is a traitor. She's referring to the group who had the choice of choosing the shield. Nick says he's talking to some of the others in like the bar in the house and says, "I felt bad that I cost us 2K yesterday, but now 5K is so much worse than that, so I don't feel so bad." Akira says that's going to be embarrassing to whoever that was, and she is guessing, I think, in her interview clip that it was MJ, as does Gail, and they are correct. Laurie's still talking about how she's sure that a traitor must have taken the shield. She's still going on about this theory she has. Again, she's right, but maybe for the wrong reasons. Pac-Man confronts MJ to say he saw him looking very nervous after the mission. He's been acting very suspiciously. And we get this clip of Mike in another one of his interview saying, "I don't know how to play. I'm so confused. Some people say you should play with your head. Some people say vote with your heart. Neither one is working. I don't know what to do." I think he's speaking for all of the faithful there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time for the conclave. Aneda begins by saying, "Please tell me it was one of you who took the shield." And finally, Michael Jordan admits it was him. And Kira just loses her mind. She's like,
Oh, God.
you have the worst body language I've ever seen in my entire life." And like she goes on and on at him. Like she just from now on in, she's just like, "You're terrible at this. You're so bad." And like I would be annoyed as well, but I would probably not let him know how annoyed I was.
Yeah,
I would like keep it to myself and just betray him now. Just decide between you and Neda,
Right.
look, let's just get him out.
Yeah, she just loses it completely. And she makes a comment about how $5,000 is a lot to someone who only makes $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
so everybody go to her YouTube channel, give her those clicks and views so you can, bump that up. But, and then go to mine for the same reason. But, you know, she just totally let all the emotions get to her. And, she says she's done covering for him. She tells us, why would we keep him? We can recruit someone else who makes better decisions. She tells him, you are not good at this. And then as she's doing this, Netta is sitting over there watching it going, huh, if $5,000 means that much to her, why would she split with me at the end?
Yeah.
And so, of course, Netta also, just as she loves seeing the faithful fight, she loves seeing the other two traitors fight. And she's like, I'll pretend to be with Kira right now.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying Neda as a character. Like, she's playing the game well. She's so much better of a traitor than I thought she was going to be.
Yeah.
She's she seems to be doing what most of the other players are not doing, which is realizing it's just a game and that it's actually quite fun. So she's having a great time, which I'm enjoying. I mean, she's seeing it as a game, but also she wants to win the game.
Right.
So
I mean, and to her credit, she has experience with this type of game before. So she's been on Canadian Big Brother twice, I believe. So she understands it better, I think, than many of the others do.
Yeah, yeah. There's another really funny moment here when Kira's going off on one at MJ, and she says, "I knew you were a traitor before we even got here," and then MJ just looks at her and says, "I'm a good traitor."
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. Like, I just can't understand. I'm like, is he really annoyed at her, and so he's just like being really defensive, or like he's just like, I'm not even going to get into an argument, so I'm just gonna act like an idiot, or like I don't know if he's playing dumb or if he's just not
dumb
playing.
Yeah. He because we've seen him get angry before.
Yeah.
And in this case, he's just sitting there, like, as she's like breathing fire at him, he's just like, okay, yeah, okay, yeah. So I don't know if it's a coping mechanism. I don't know if he just really doesn't. I don't know. I mean, sometimes it does have to be a coping mechanism. I remember one time when, I was new to a job I had been promoted into, and my boss at the time, she hadn't been the one who interviewed me. She had been away on family leave and came back, and poof, there I was. And so, I mean, we knew each other, but and she had given something to me and said, I want you to do this assignment. And even though it had someone else's name on it, it was supposed to be passed along. So I did the assignment, and then after I did it, I gave it to the person it belonged to. And then she saw him holding that file and without asking questions, blew up and pulled me into her office. And she was just, again, breathing fire at me, just yelling at me. I joked later that, you could see my outline in the paint on the wall. And I just, I could have handled it one of two ways. I could have argued with her, or I could have just let her blow it all out and then calmly said afterwards. And so I decided to go the route of letting her blow it all out. And then I calmly said afterwards, well, actually, here's what happened. And that ended up working very well for her. So maybe he's had success in similar situations where either he thought he was in the right, or he just realized that me arguing with her is not going to solve the problem here.
Yeah. I suspect he realizes that there's no point in him arguing back because he can argue back.
Well, there's that too. Yes. Yeah. In the example I gave, I was in the right and she was in the wrong. In this case, she was in the right and he was in the wrong. So
yeah. So I think it's just easier for him to accept his fate and take it.
Yeah. And also, again, this comes to where we were talking about earlier, where his logic about, well, if I got the shield, it left everyone else open. And no, that's terrible logic.
Yeah. So it seems like as we approach the end, Kira just wants rid of him. And like you said, Neda is observing how brutal Kira is. I mean, I suspect it's not going to be long. He might get himself banished without them doing anything, but if not, I suspect they might just team up on him and get him going. Although I don't know. I mean, he's handy to keep around maybe for as long as possible, and they can just, he'll use up a banishment.
Right. Right.
It's time for them to think about who they want to murder. Michael John suggests three people: Mike, Gail, Pac-Man. And Kira's like, "Oh, is that because they're the three people who think you're a traitor?"
Oh, I know. This was great because she just, in an increasingly tenser voice, like, is that because they clocked you? Is that because they clocked you? Is that because they clocked you? You know.
Yeah, and again, he just sort of like takes it.
Yeah.
I would feel bad for him if he wasn't so terrible at the game. And so yeah, Kira and Neda are like have to explain like here's why this is a really bad idea because
But is it? But is it a bad idea? She just said she wasn't going to protect him anymore. Let him get rid of one of those three people.
well, yeah, exactly. They could just stand back and let him do it and be like, okay, MJ, let's do one of those people. Yeah, so
Yeah,
part of
that's
them,
a great idea.
yeah, I think they just can't help themselves but like point out to him like, here's why that's a bad idea for you. Here's why
Yeah.
you're bad at being. But yeah, maybe they should just let him have at it. However, while they are discussing things, there's a knock at the door and a very abrupt end to the episode.
It seems like they're about to say they'll go after one of the sinners group, and then that's it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening now.
Well, yeah, that's I was going to ask what do you think is going on here? I mean it's obviously Karine is going to appear, right? But I don't
Yeah.
know what she's
No, someone
gonna
else
offer
wandered
them?
off and found them. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Mike has been sleepwalking because he can't sleep because he was sure he's going to be murdered again. And he's found the conclave. Yeah, I don't know what. I mean, like, the obvious thing is that Crane's gonna ask them if they want to recruit someone, but why? There are still three of them. Usually that only happens when a traitor's banished. So I don't know. Don't know what's going on here.
Maybe it's maybe Trina has so much power that since she mentioned there were four traitors that Karine is like, oh, you're right, there should be four.
Yeah. Maybe it's I'm guessing it's some new twist to the game we haven't seen in another version. They're going to introduce a new mechanic, a new bit of gameplay. Maybe something like I'd be a bit convenient if it happened right now, but maybe someone's left the game, someone's been um what's the word I'm looking for? Someone's been someone's broken a rule and been disqualified. Thank you. So big as happened in Canada season one.
Right.
So maybe
Yeah.
it's a repeat of that. So Karine has to tell them there's no point in murdering. I don't know. We'll see. I have a couple of just overall observations about this episode. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you wanted to add we've not mentioned yet?
Just well, I didn't know if you were going to talk about the preview, or did you want to do
I didn't really watch the preview.
Okay.
I like to just not see it.
Okay, well, it's not terribly helpful. It does seem like Kira opens up on Michael in the next roundtable, but I feel like they wouldn't show that if it actually means they're going after him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I mean, my only thoughts on this episode, besides what I've said already, is I laughed seeing Kira just rip into Michael, and he just stood there and took it. But there were just so many bad decisions in this episode. This funny thing is, I don't think banishing Jasmine was one of them. Yes, she was a faithful, but she was a bad faithful, and she was just causing problems. She was doing exactly what Cedric was complaining about people targeting him for.
Yeah.
Being a bad faithful. You never knew who she was going to point out. You could let her go to sleep that night. She could come down the next morning, and you could go from being her best friend to, she could have come down and accused Trina and been like, oh, you were defending me because you wanted to pocket me because you're a traitor.
Yeah.
She just had to go. I do think if they can murder, which, I'm hoping they can, that they should murder Trana so that suspicion will fall on the 4 people
Yeah.
that she named.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I Any predictions about who's next on the chopping block for banishment? I'm assuming Cedric or MJ.
Yeah, like I said, I just don't think they'd put it in the I know you didn't look at the preview, but I don't think they would have put it in the preview if it's Michael. So that makes me think it'll be Cedric.
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense. I had a couple of observations. One of them is same as last week. Not, and I think maybe the week before, not one vote for a real traitor at tonight's roundtable again. Very interesting. I don't know how much that's going to last. And something else I noticed about this episode is that the murder of Dylan, the murder in plain sight, it actually just doesn't really feature as a talking point. I thought there might be lots of speculation around it, people trying to figure out why did Karine imply that Dylan's murder was unique? What did she mean by that? And maybe people start to think back to last night. Did anything weird happen before we went to it? And maybe they did, but they don't show us any chatter about that at all, which is a shame.
Yeah. They focus on the wrong little things that come up instead of the right little things that come up.
Yeah. My final question of question of reflection was something you mentioned earlier. Are we seeing the worst group of faithful since Australia season 2?
Oof. I mean, if you just look at it, are they worse than Australia season 2? No. Those people literally hadn't read the rules. You know, they literally thought that traitors could murder one another.
Yeah.
You know, or that traitors could use a shield. What was it? They did something crazy. They thought about, you know, a traitor could use a shield in a certain way or something. And
yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
Are they the worst group of faithfuls, English speaking version since then? I mean, they haven't even really sniffed the trail of a traitor yet. You know, other than a little bit of Michael, and Michael's just a bad traitor. So, yeah, I'd say so far they are, especially since they want it so bad. It's not like they're doing it purposely as some game move to be like, haha, we're going to keep the traitors in. No, they're really trying and just really bad.
Yeah.
And to be fair, 2 of the 3 traitors are really good.
Yes, that is true. Now, we have a couple of things left in the episode of the podcast. We are going to begin with our traitor reveal. David, I'm going to. This is not the game's over, so we can't lie anymore. I actually hadn't planned a lie. I realized when we started the game, I always plan something in my notes. I hadn't prepared anything, so I have lied to you, and it was a lie that I made up off the cuff. Did you lie to me?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I don't know why I'm asking that. You always lie. There's never been a time.
Rude.
There's never been a time you said no. I forgot. I'll start us off. I have a few guesses of what your lie could have been. You did your famous thing that you like to do, which is you gave me a little anecdote. You told me a story about your work and said, "Oh, there was one time I had to do an assignment." But I think that story was true, unless one element of it was false. Like you said, your boss was a woman, maybe it was a man. But actually, I think the whole story was probably true, and you were just telling me a story. You said that there was a moment in the episode where Cedric's accusing Jasmine of saying we instead of they, and you said I even though they did a flashback, I put it back to watch the whole scene again. Thought that could have been a lie. Maybe you didn't. You said something about Big Brother US. A player's just lost 750,000. Maybe that was all fake. You gave me this really specific statistic. You were talking about Trana and when she named 4 people, and you said she had like a 38.5% chance of getting one of them right, and she didn't. So that was some you had to plan that out in advance. I'm going to go for that. I'll go for that. That statistic was just completely made up.
Yes, and it was wrong on top of that too. It turned out as I was saying it, I realized it was wrong too, because I thought that there was a 28.6% chance at 7.14% times four. But I forgot that there are three traitors, so it's actually not a 1 in 14, it's a 3 in 14 chance.
Yeah.
So the real number is something like, I did the math as I was doing it here. It was actually 85.7% chance, which makes it even worse that she didn't hit someone.
Wait, so that was your lie?
Yes.
Yay!
It was my lie, and I got it wrong on top of that.
Woo! I'm back. I've been doing so badly the past few weeks. I got one. Hooray. Any guesses what my lie was, David?
I have one guess, and I could be totally wrong. I just wonder if you took a page out of my book and were like, aha, I know David doesn't watch Big Brother UK. So I'm going to make up and say that there's a change in the format and there's this head of house now, which is something they took from the US, because that sounds believable. And that's really the only thing I have. So was your lie that they now have a head of house there?
That is not my lie. They are using head of house in Big Brother UK now. It was all true. I thought you were going to guess my lie was about my first car being a Nissan, but actually that is also true. And I just sort of thought of it as I was speaking. My lie was I referenced a game I said last week on the podcast. I said I played a game, an alien game, and it's called Alienation. I made that up. I did actually talk about a game last week on the podcast, unless I said that off air, but I did talk about it with Matthew, my co-host.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the name of the game. I still don't know the name of the game. I pretended it was called Alienation. That was false.
Well, I was wondering because there is a game that takes place on a spaceship that I know about, an online game, but I think it's totally online, and I'm blanking on the actual name of it.
Is that Among Us?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. This is a totally different, separate to that as well. A whole new thing.
Yeah.
Well, I feel great. I'm back. Thank you for playing. We will end the podcast here on a high. David, tell us where we can find you.
Well, I am all over social media and reality TV podcasting right now because US Big Brother is over. I am down to just one US show, which is Survivor. That is on the Rob Has a Podcast Network, or RHAP, We Know Survivor, with the name of the show being Why Blank Lost. You can find all of my various accounts through my Linktree at linktree/David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE in the URL. Or you can find me directly on Twitter and Blue Sky as @David Bloomberg, and on Threads as @David Bloomberg TV. I am on the video platforms, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as @David Bloomberg TV, where I've been posting, well, until this week, at least 3, often more, but this week my son got married, so I had to lighten up a little bit on the video posting, so it was only 2 a day most days instead. But as I mentioned, among those are the Traitors Canada. I posted one before we even recorded. Survivor, The Summit, House of Villains, and The Anonymous, which also just ended.
Yes.
And there's a connection in The Anonymous where Sandra from the Traitors US, her daughter was playing on The Anonymous. I will not say how she did.
Very interesting. I wonder if they're both produced by Studio Lambert. I wonder if there's some sort of casting connection there or something.
Good point.
As always, well, first of all the people who already followed David, you should come follow me because David has thousands more followers than I do. So, as always, you can leave reviews and you can leave star ratings and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. You can send in questions, thoughts on the episodes. We'll read them out. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trade Hour Podcast. On YouTube, I'm now at 451 subscribers. My next target is 500, so I'm pushing for that.
That's right. I forgot to mention I hit 40,000 on YouTube.
Hooray! Some of those people could definitely come on over to me.
That's right. That's right.
The podcast is also on X at the Trade Hour.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to one-up you there or anything. It just reminded me.
No, not at all. On X at the Trade Hour Pod, and you can get in touch by email as well, the Trade Hour Podcast at gmail.com. David, we'll be back next week for episode 6. Until then, keep us on your Trade Hour.
And stay traitorous.
$1-800-Flowers.com knows that a gift is never just a gift. A gift is an expression of everything you feel and helps build more meaningful relationships. 1-800-Flowers takes the pressure off by helping you navigate life's important moments by making it simple to find the perfect gift. From flowers and cookies to cake and chocolate, 1-800-Flowers helps guide you in finding the right gift to say how you feel. To learn more, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
ACAST powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
This is Sarah.
And this is Beth.
And we are Pantsuit Politics,
a podcast where we take a different approach to the news.
We talk about news, we talk about politics, but we also talk about parenting and travel and pop culture and how all of that affects how we understand the world.
We're really different people. Sometimes you'll hear us agree and sometimes not. We think that's where the fun is. We laugh and learn together and with all of you twice a week, every week.
Pantsuit Politics is about engaging with each other and the news without the anxiety and the frustration.
We hope you'll join our conversation every Tuesday and Friday because politics doesn't have to be exhausting. Our listeners tell us it's like time spent with your good friends who did their homework.
ACAST helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.